So just an addition to a point. Certain beings can hear a message and be able to supposedly decode the message. Because when you become on a certain frequency, have certain experiences, and have a relationship with higher power, then you start being able to listen to things and you can decode it. But you know what was kind of funny? God was able to speak through a donkey, so we know he could speak through anything. The other guy spoke through a serpent. Spoke through a serpent. So I'm pretty sure he could speak through a person. That kind of rhyme. So my point, what really gets me is, hold on. This is how people try to lock people up. I'm gonna tell you what I mean by lock up. Catch people and being on try to attach their little spell work to people. I'm gonna tell you how they try to attach spell work. You think that you understand you dealing with a certain type of being on a certain type of frequency, and then you come to the conclusion that now you trying to use these things, and a being like myself would know where these things come from. When you talk about sorcery and things like that, we know exactly where this stuff is coming from. So in other words, the point is, if the other dude was able to talk to a serpent, he could talk to a person. If God could talk through the donkey and said, if nothing praised him, the rocks will cry out. We know it can speak through anybody. But the thing sometimes another mankind can't decode, rather than other than the message, is who is the sender. See, they say the enemy know the word. The enemy knows the word. So now all these messages coming through, but we was told about this prior. We were told it was going to become a time. It was going to become a time where a whole bunch of people was doing this. Yeah, that's in the Bible too. Yep. There's going to come a time where there's all of these. Yeah. So now it's here, and most people you don't even recognize you living in it. A whole bunch of people with a bunch of stuff to say, don't have no experiences. I'm pretty sure it's scripture about experiences and that they work of patience. You got to understand some things about patience, right? It was funny. Someone was just saying sometimes, you might ask for patience. You're not getting patience like being given to you. You're getting put in a situation to where you learn what patience is, right? And I'm not saying that's true. I'm just saying that that's something I heard. What I'm trying to get at is that God can speak through anything. The enemy was speaking through serpents, can speak through a person. And a person on a particular frequency might be able to decode the message, but that don't mean that he can decode the sender, because the vessel be steadily choosing to do what it wants to do. That's the point. I don't know who's speaking through you, decoded message or not. Every time it seemed like we want to use power that all comes from heaven, and we want to use it for some strange sorcery, misusery, or every time for something that's on the wicked ends, iniquity, and all this other stuff. And then you get other people who want to use it for the right things, and then it's some other dilemma. How stupid do you think these high, whatever we want to call it right nowadays, higher vibrational, whatever we want to, I'm gonna tell you what, you keep trying to escape love out of these things, and then you find out you can't lie to the truth. You can't do whatever you want to the truth. Stop trying to use these sacrificial moments where we had a savior to make a sacrifice. The sacrifice was something he didn't have to do. He did it because he loved. And that don't mean that you get a second chance at that. Said this already. This is what I mean by sorcery. You're trying to go to the source of these particular things and use sources of even all these stuff's elements, all anything you could think of to try to make it work in your favor, but you don't have no good intention behind it. And then you got people working with less, using no sorcery, and will have good intention to spread something that love that you can't beat. You can't beat love with a source. You can't beat love by sorcery. You can't. Love does not mean that it is like has no description or detail about it, that it is what you call like a doormat to anything. I don't know what part where we thought that love was a doormat to everything else, whether in the world, the universe, whatever you want to call it. When? Since when? That's some type of fallacy, some type of something, something the serpent is dropping in your mind to make you think love is the doormat for everything else. Everything can step on love. Just wanted to add this update. You have no authority. There's no power that's more powerful than love. In other words, you could try to, be tricky and slick with certain beings, and then try to blame, put blame and say, oh, but they know what the message meant. But no. I cannot always know who the sender is. Who sent this? Who's in you giving the message? Who's using you to channel through you to say the messages? If the beings don't know, that is the point right there. Point blank, period. Yeah, I think someone said it too. I put a period on stuff. I put an exclamation part at the end of this stuff, and y'all don't know how to remove it because you up to no good. Stop playing with sorcery.
Okay, so my name is Walter. Um, as far as my life, I think just before I answer the question, my life is really uh, something I feel like every experience that I've had and talking about my life or answering questions, it can do a lot to assist um, people in this year and just period. So um, I do have an artist name. I won't really divulge that right now, but really, a lot of experiences that I've had in life, period. For me to answer questions about myself and be in a kind of documentary sense can help people right now, along with other people right now. I feel like had the ability to kind of drop jewels of knowledge that can help us all. So, what was the question again? So, um, I think I think really in 2024, uh, it's like, for example, even thus far, like we in April now, so um, all the way from now to where we're at now, I would say that post pandemically, why I want to start there, because the pandemic was something where if like older people, like they could tell you about like per se like they could tell you about Pearl Harbor, right? If we're older, I'm 35 years old, right? um Somebody older can tell you about Pearl Harbor. Somebody older can tell you about older than that could tell you, about stuff like Vietnam or something, right? So post pandemically, as a 35-year-old, I don't have many experiences that are at a magnitude that is equivalent to like the pandemic, for example. Um, like that hit us all, right? And for it to hit us all the way that it did, one of the biggest things from that is, did we all change from that? Did we all change from that point? A lot of people had different opinions about things that was going on. A lot of people Or like for example, you could say a lot of people were saying like that things were predicted. You know what I'm saying? Like you could read books before the time the pandemic hit that let us know that that was gonna happen. You know what I'm saying? So it's like beyond all of our opinions about the pandemic, it's kind of like, for example, my culture, right? Like African American culture right now, presently, it's like we don't really have a altogether view of or a united say of how we view the pandemic. We just feel like the pandemic time was like a time where you could have got a stimulus check, people got sick, we lost people, but other than that, uh, for the culture, can we say that we all have a view about how to go from that point? Uh, for the most part, I don't think we really do have a voice like a organized, united voice view of that. So, for example, for back to African American culture, I feel like uh, we're downward spiraling. We're downward spiraling because we've looked at it from a sense of, okay, if I say start talking about slavery, we look at it like, okay, we're up from that point. Slavery was the part where you know like we we feel like that was our low. Now we're not there, but now we still have the social kind of you know what I'm saying resistance, right? We you know, we still have police brutality. We still have a lot of times where our own culture is killing each other, right? So uh, we look at the slavery part like that was a low part. Now we up. We still got these things we dealing with, and all of our whole culture we deal with it differently. We have our own ways to deal with it, right? But before I lose my mind, my train of thought. Um, so it's like a culture divided and thought and perception. So for example, you can have a big number of us who's like on one side, and you got another percentage that's just kind of like, well, you got some other components that you know we kind of leaving out. So in other words, the downward spiral that I'm talking about is most of our culture was brought up in, let's say, brought up in learning things about our spirituality, our faith, and when we get to that point of it, um, how do we really implement that part of faith and things like that into our perception of how we looking at something, right? The downward spiral is how does all of the faith stuff add into what's going on post pandemic, for example, where I started at, and it not be all an opinionated view and everything stretched out and everybody's perception is kind of like solitary. It's not unified. Okay, good. All right, so downward spiral. Back to that. So, for example, uh, post-pandemic African American culture. I had said this a lot before, and I had said, um, I had said that well, I'll say this, like, okay, example, everything can be right now the way it's supposed to be, meaning on a negative and a positive side. Why? Because you got people who are resistant to, like for example, like anything resulting in like biblical solution stuff. You got people that's resistant. You got people who really listen to everything that they hear in their head. Like your intuition is, they listen to the intuition more than they're going to listen to biblical morality, moral solution
to situations in your real time that's going on. You're listening to anything that come to your mind, thinking that it's your intuition, and then you got the next person doing it. So that becomes a strung along resistance to, wait a minute, why are you not opting into biblical solution? That's fine. It's all good. It's cool. In a minute. Just relax. Like, in other words, I could say biblical solution and to a lot of stuff that's going on right now in your household, in your marriage, in real time. People frown the way the look I got on my face right now. That's how they start looking. Why? Because you've trusted your intuition, like your intuition is the voice of who you say is like, I believe in God. I'm gonna let that sit. Every time something comes to your mind, most of our community, we've adopted a way to think, and it's based off intuition. It's not based off God speaking to you. Because God, like, for example, if I say God or Christ is saying, like, he's trying to say, I'm the same yesterday, today, and forever. So to know me, meaning if I say love in the way I showed you and you do different, on what sphere did you do the action that you're trying to do? On what sphere? Like the sphere of, like, okay, my scenario is I'm a hustler, so I do my hustle thing. You know what I'm saying? Now, I feel like God wanted me to do this, so I do it. But in contrast to, I don't trust everything that comes to my mind. I'm talking me personally. Meaning, you could be like, okay, well, what's that supposed to mean? I'm saying, do you really have any idea what morality is? To say to myself, yeah, I mean, like, have the courage to reflect on yourself and say, how do I think about everything? If I do everything that comes to my mind, you're probably wrong. You're probably wrong in a lot of things, to where you got space to change it. You can change your approach, how you perceive things, how you think about things, what method or action that you're going to perform in anything, whether like real time, on your job, at home, with your family, everything. So in other words, intuition is something with African American culture, and I'm gonna keep saying it. Post pandemic, for example, is a very big issue. It also leads a lot of us, even present right now, like we in April 2024. So we're like right now, we're really trying to get relationships. Everyone's talking about relationships. If you go on social media, a big thing is how we talking about relationships. So in other words, one question I could pose in explaining, how can you how do we know what to do in relationships if, how are you telling people what's right to do in a relationship if you don't know what's right to do in the other facets of your life? I'm talking not guess or think or say what you do, what's right to really do. Meaning, I'm trying to really press on, morality doesn't come from me. It comes from me seeking it out. Like, for example, I don't really, I don't tell myself I'm doing what I think is right. I do what I sought out, without lying to myself about what I'm seeking for, meaning my intention is clear. As my intention is clear, then that's how we're built as mankind, with a conscience. Everybody has a conscience. And the thing about a conscience, I know, Kel. So look, this is what I'm getting at. Everybody has a conscience, but as time goes on, you get to a point where now someone's conscience could be louder than this other person's conscience. So now things happen, and that person hears their inwardly, they're like, I don't feel too good about what I'm doing, or I have a feeling. And other people are like, I didn't feel nothing. So in other words, what I'm saying is, whatever it is for the African American culture that we was always taught, or the majority of us is gaining. It says like faith come by hearing, right? Like biblically, right? Preceptually, faith come by hearing. So now you've adopted a way to live your life, but you only get the full totality of it by seeking it out. To taste, was what I taught, was what I was taught true or it's not? The definition of true and false, you got to get it from, not from ourselves, we have to get it from what you was created from. So what I'm saying is, we get the downward spiral is getting away from your creator's perception of everything. That's how the downward spiral is. All right, cut. Your arm is probably tired. Basically, develop our own solutionary that's based on custom and tradition, and we trying to we seriously are trying to read out of it everything we can, coming to the realization that we trying to stay a blind eye to the result of what it's actually doing. Why would I say that our culture is downward spiraling, and then I put a time space on it, a time stamp on that? This is like post pandemic. If a pandemic hit all of us, let somebody do something to your cousin in there. You pulling the who did what? What? That's your response. Your response to something happened to your family is now you pulling up. Something happened to your daughter, your son. Now you pulling up. Something hits us. And this is how you know how dishonest you are. Your response is let's get more savage. How? I know I could hear the question if it wouldn't even be said right out loud, right? How? Okay, so for example, when something happens, right, and when grandma gets sick, what happens? We comfort, right? Grandma's sick, we comfort. Grandma, what you need? How you feeling? I came by to see you. What you need? You need me to go to the store? Of course, Grandma, I'm gonna go to the store. What you need? That's our natural response that we don't obey. We obey it only on certain facets when we choose to. So the part of us that's doing that awful when we choose to, rather than in response to what serves. Dang, that's crazy. That term right there changes the whole vibe. Meaning, we willing to serve when it's really too late, when it's all the times wasted of the other windows when we could have did the serving to change the situation and it would have never got there. For example, holistically, like Kelly, I'll talk to you about holistically. Like, and I don't just talk to you, I talk to everybody about like holistically or organically. Right now, if you're in Atlanta, there's so many places where now that I just seen on the news, they're talking about like on my phone, I'm looking on the news, and one of the like broadcasts of the news is that Atlanta is one of the most healthiest like cities, period, like in America. Why? Because now you're going to get all the stuff that's from the earth that's already been here. Now look, we're learning how to put it in your in a beverage. You're learning how to eat vegan and eat better now. You know what I'm saying? Like, we're learning now, like even if I want to eat some meat, they putting stuff in our food. You know what I'm saying? What I'm trying to say is, point blank. Now, before I forget my point, that you have an ability. That ability alone is a window open up from heaven. Heaven opens up windows and pours stuff out on earth, like on some quotational, non-quotational. Pours it out so we can consume it. You can't say 2020, like you can't say 23 years ago that it was like the craze the way it is now, huh? No, because everybody was going to look on Sunday. You was going to eat some soul food after church, after congregation, and you knew everybody at Big Mama house, right? man. It's at the congregation, man. I'm going to get some grub. Y'all going to get some? We already know, right? So in other words, how do you think things on earth change? It's because heaven deems it. It's watching to see what your response is going to be, not just individually, but as a whole. So in other words, what I mean by the downward spiral is you can't really play who sit on the throne and open up them windows for us, and it's all being tallied up. Meaning the tally up is saying, wait a minute, don't, like, for example, like people come into contact, I'm no, let's say I'm nobody, but you come into contact with me and I'm able to exchange some type of information and share some things very openly in a loving way, in a different vibe than maybe you and your whole tribe and your whole clique. That means there could be an exchange, you know what I'm saying? It's really a form of servitude, which is connected what, to love. You know what I'm saying? So in other words, love still reigns supreme enough to where our downward spiral is. There is none of us in African American culture right now, 2024. We in April, what, 14, 15 today. To come to the conclusion that the pandemic hit us. It put us in quarantine. We in the house, everything online. You know what I'm saying? Now we get money out of it, right? But what did it also? It forced you to live with people now under your roof, and really that wasn't the situation before that. So it showed you. I was just reading scripturally. It was said, be hospitable to others without grudging. So what I'm saying is the downward spiral is, why would you want to get closer to a being that we can call good? He's the only being that we can call good, and start trying to get closer and closer to him. You say it like your mouth is saying that, and realize I'm getting singed by how good he is because I'm trying to get closer, but really you're not opting into the opportunities or the open windows to change your method of action that he gave you. So you going, if at best you're a filthy rag, that's scriptural, right? That's preceptual, right? Precept scripture, right? At best, at your best, as a human being, you're a filthy rag. And you're trying to steady get closer. Closer is not the problem. You trying to get closer to Christ is not the problem. It's that you automatically draw close to the one that's good when you take his method on how to transform what you are, your being, a rebirth, a transformation. And you can only do that through what? The spirit. You can't be reborn physically, right? He told Nicodemus this. Nicodemus was a Pharisee. He came and he asked. What I'm saying is, it all comes back around to what you are, with some things you already know. You heard it before, but we running from it. Straight up. Running till we come to the conclusion that, wait a minute, way back when, Bishop Nathaniel of IUIC, you know what he was saying? He was doing his interview, right? And he had this whole, I know these bees is crazy. Mm-hmm. He had the headset on and everything. He said the movie that just came out with what's that black movie? The Book of Clarence. The Book of Clarence.
Book of Eli?
No, it's called Book of Clarence.
Oh,
and it has all the old time disciples and stuff, and all that same time zone, and they're melanated people, melanated folk, like. And he was saying we were that then. The stuff that they're showing in that film, he said we was that then. Wow. And so I'm saying this: why are we still that now? And think it's not what's crazy. This is what's crazy. This is what's crazy. This is what's crazy. What's crazy is
these bees. That's what's crazy.
That question's crazy, huh? How 2,000 years ago we was something, and then we still that now, and we don't think we had a downward spiral. Pandemic just hit. We basically, it was supposed to make us. In other words, don't you think the pandemic was supposed to kind of make us all go like this? look, like in the movie Us, we all locking hands together. Meaning, you're starting to learn that, hold on, something can happen. Every time something happens, we want to unify. Then as soon as that thing's no longer there, we do what? Hypocrisy is hypocrisy. So in other words, really to conclude, like, you know what I'm saying, to answer the question is that hypocritical action, we the same generation that say actions speak louder than words. So what are you saying? You saying you willing to face the good one and his judgment, and you the same thing you was 2,000 years ago? Our community gonna say, what? We was slaves. We was slaves 400 years. We was woo. We ready to face judgment and before judgment. You know what y'all do then? When y'all say yeah, y'all want to answer yeah. You're ready to face judgment, and you the same thing it was 2,000, 3,000 years ago. And you know when y'all start saying yeah, because y'all start trying to individualize yourself. Well, I know I'm good. I don't know about them over there. That's the wrong mindset to have in itself. Because you forget that it's like the servitude part of it, huh? Yeah. The servitude part is either going to expose that these people totally 100% reject whatever is good and whatever is loving, or they invite it.